You know this expression, always be selling, that the CEO has to always be selling, or the variation for the VC world is always be funding. Well, there is also an expression that I kind of developed over a period of time, which is always be thinking about your exit.
Hi everyone, this is Alastair, and thanks for tuning in to the Venture Variety Show. In this episode, our guest is Doug Levin. Doug is a startup advisor, an investor, he's a lecturer at Harvard, and he's a blogger. You can find his Substack called Lessons of a Startup Life. Doug is also a former operator. He founded Black Duck Software. And in this episode, Doug and I talk about sectors of interest, what's going on in healthcare and AI, obviously. Doug also has advice for founders, including fundraising and when is a good time to be planning an exit. Spoiler alert, it's always be planning your exit. So let's jump in and meet Doug.
My name is Doug Levin. I'm based in Boston. Hence, I'm in the afternoon and Alistair's in the
Early afternoon.
early afternoon, right? Over the course of time, I've been working in the technology industry in a variety of ways. I started off as an economist and a business analyst, and I've straddled both the technical side as well as the business side. I started out working as like a VP in a startup, which was on the Macintosh development team, and I just got totally addicted to that. Subsequently, I was hired by Microsoft. I was on the Excel team, and then subsequently I was on the Windows team and OS2 team, and then I ran a P&L in Microsoft Germany. And when I left Microsoft, I decided I wanted to be more accountable for my actions. That is to say, in an executive management role with companies. And so I basically pursued a number of startups on my own, and then I came up with the idea of Black Duck Software in December of 2002. After considering the two companies that I sold off to acquirers and getting answers from the engineering team that they were not using open source software, when in fact they were. And so I decided to build a platform that enterprises could use to interrogate software and find the use of open source, both from a software development lifecycle standpoint, as well as from a malware management standpoint. So it found the bad code and the good code and licensed appropriately, and that company became Black Duck Software. In January of 2018, I started pursuing, board positions, advisor roles, and also teaching. So ever since then, I've been teaching at the Harvard Business School, entrepreneur-oriented courses, and also I've been sitting on 5 boards, mostly cybersecurity, AI, and one blockchain company that's based in Paris. And let me assure you that being on the board of a company that's based in Paris is a very good deal, because the board dinners are the best out there. They're really good dinners. Anyway, I
Nice
continue
to
to
hear.
do what I do, which is help entrepreneurs build out companies and address market opportunities.
Yeah, Black Duck was such an incredible run. Do you have that? Do you have any itch to start another company, or do you prefer the more, advisory, investing, role, sitting on boards?
You know, I ask myself that question a lot,
Okay.
and I sometimes think, yeah, I'm going to jump in again and do it again. And then, my son calls and says, "You want to go to a basketball game?" And I say, "Yeah, of course. Are you kidding?" Or, I can fly out and see a football game, or I went to the Olympics and things like that. So, you know, sports is a really important part of my life. My family is an extremely important part of my life. My intellectual life is really important as well. So all of those things are important. And then teaching, is important too. So I think I'm doing the right thing for myself.
I came across you was just on Substack, just your blog, Lessons of a Startup. What are founders asking you? They must be quizzing you on the current market and how they should roll, right?
Well, number one, I have a pretty active audience out there, and
Yeah.
they are pinging me with ideas all the time. Number two, for my advisory and board and also consulting, I do some consulting projects. I just learn a lot about what's happening in startups as well as established companies. And that's the source of a lot of information. So, I've written 360 blog posts to date, and the blog posts range from, what's the AI market doing to the whole changes that have gone on in crypto as well as blockchain, all the changes that have happened in the SaaS market. And I mean, the SaaS market would be a really good example of how, I get pinged by, I've been advising SaaS companies now for, in a couple of cases for 10 or 15 years. And once AI hit, especially ChatGPT and subsequently other generative AIs, they were asking me how to apply AI to their SaaS offerings. And then, I speak at a lot of AI events, especially at MIT. The truth of the matter is that there's still a lot of questions. Not all the questions have been answered. So there's ample opportunity to write blog posts about issues related to going to market as an AI company. Do you have to be fully native, or can you just take your SaaS and then adjust it to the AI world? Questions like that are abounding.
Any other sectors of interest? Are you seeing whether it's a sector, a subsector in healthcare or?
Well, certainly, I mean, just to clarify your healthcare question, AI in healthcare is a very hot area. And the reason why is it's so data rich and it lends itself to automation because of the regulatory conditions in there. I am not well versed in healthcare. And especially AI in healthcare. I am well versed in AI and in cybersecurity and in blockchain and also in data and applied to all kinds of enterprise data situations in general. And there is growth there. And I think that what happened was there was a bit of a chill in the fourth quarter of last year when it came to enterprise purchases of AI. And that's thawed out. It's not a ferocious market at this point, but it's definitely a growth market, and it's returned to a growth market at this point in the year. Who knows what the effects of Trump's tariffs will be on certain enterprises, but
Mhm.
like what I've been told is that enterprise AI projects are back and that there's growth there and they're getting budget and people want to take advantage of that opportunity and take advantage of the new, companies that have entered the agent AI space.
Fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about startups and raising money from investors. Are investors, how are they evaluating startups and founders these days? Are you noticing any trends?
Well, there are definitely trends, and it's a really interesting question because you get different answers from different sized and different types of VC. So investors are definitely returning to investments. They're not investing as heavily as I would say they did in 21 and 22 and 20 especially when it comes to AI, but they are selectively going deep.
Hmm.
Agents are definitely getting, and any company that has agent or agency technology are definitely getting a lot of um, attention. So what that translates into is one area of qualification. They're very interested in growth areas. Robots are also one area that they're getting. Automation is a big area of AI growth. But then the second area is in terms of qualifications and things that VC are looking for. I think they're looking for smaller teams. And for a long time, they were looking for AI superstars. And there's definitely a need for founders to realize that they need to be, they're not looking for big teams like 5 or 7. They're looking for teams like 3. Even single AI founders are I've heard a couple of about them. They're returning, and what ends up happening is in many cases, VCs want the solo guys to join up with other guys, and so that there's a critical mass at two or three, but these are not large teams. So AI in and of itself is causing that, because you can get a lot more done through generative AI. And as a result, you don't have to have these larger teams. Like, for example, marketing, market analysis, competition analysis, pricing, many of the other things, even software development, can be accomplished through generative AIs and other technologies. That being said, there are a number of things that are happening in the, like in startups, that I find interesting. The timing of product managers and the timing of marketing people and the timing of additions to the team is also under, new consideration. So there was a period of time, especially at MIT for some reason, that product managers were put off until there was traction in the marketplace that the founders could find. Product managers are needed earlier. And so the so-called AI product manager is definitely a factor in the marketplace right now. So it's hard to find product managers with a lot of AI expertise. That means product manager. So there are a lot of people who have, used the AI tools that are moving into product or considering moving into product manager, because there's such a shortage of AI product managers. Anyway,
Amazing.
Yeah. That being
And
said,
yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I would say that the other parts of the AI life cycle is causing, a lot of demand in CEOs that know AI, CMOs that really understand the AI market, also board members who understand exits for AI companies.
Hmm.
The whole partnership ecosystem, much more complicated than before. As a result, people with AI experience, that is AI industry experience, are really valued.
Well, what sounds like there's a lot of opportunity out there if you're an executive or an operator with AI experience. Just going back to what you said about investors looking for smaller teams. So just to reiterate, so the advantage there is that an investor can take a solo-led company or a small team and partner it with another team, maybe one of their own investments or a potential investment. Is that
Well,
why
I
smaller
think
teams
that's
are
always
preferred?
go on. That's always gone on.
Yeah, that's true.
VCs always do these either business combinations or network contact combinations that just make the companies better. But the other part of this is, which is a more complicated thing to kind of describe, is that there was this bulge in the marketplace of AI companies that occurred as a result of ChatGPT. So, the 6 months after ChatGPT hit the market and around the midpoint of 24, somebody told me that there were 70,000 AI startups that were just founded as a result of ChatGPT. That number has probably increased substantially. But what's important is not all those companies got funded, not all those companies succeeded, not all those companies had traction, but they got founders and the people who worked in them got a lot of experience. So they've moved on either to other companies that have been successful or now looking for companies that are about to get funded. Once you have AI experience, like with ChatGPT add-ons or applications, or in the AI market or native AI applications, once you've got that experience, you can join teams. And so, in one or two cases, I'm seeing, people who have been around in the AI market and especially longer, being in a position of saying, this is a company that I want to join, or this is a company I want to form, and others just join in.
Yeah, that amazing acceleration, right? Because Chat GPT was late 2022. And as you say, yeah, mid 23 to mid 24, we just saw an explosion of AI companies. Is this unprecedented, do you think, this level of spiking with AI related companies? I mean, that's all anyone could talk about, right? AI, investing in AI, starting an AI company. Is this, does this feel unprecedented to you?
This current surge in and kind of mixing of AI companies is, I think, much more dynamic than what you saw when the
Mm,
internet bubble crashed.
yeah.
So all these people, when the internet bubble crashed, all these people who had internet startups basically either went back into well-paying jobs in corporate America, or did, like other types of startups, or found other jobs in the internet industry. You remember at that time, telecom crashed.
Hmm.
So there was very little to, find in the telecom area. But, many of those companies, I mean, you look at Mark Andreessen, for example,
Yeah.
went from Mosaic to Netscape
What was the
you
other
know,
one? Yeah, go on.
yeah,
Yeah.
Opsware, I think it was.
Yes. Thank you.
And then, now he's a VC. So, basically what happens is, once you've got that gene of entrepreneurship, once you've got that gene of understanding a particular, market niche or technology area, you can follow it and jump from company to company, market to market, and, leverage your expertise.
Yeah. And perfect too. You read my mind. I was gonna compare the current AI surge to the dot-com era, and you went right there. So interesting. And yeah, I would tend to agree with you that it is a bit different. It is a bit more dynamic. Yeah, I would love to switch gears a little bit here and talk about, our audience is the entrepreneur, the founder. You teach entrepreneurship at Harvard. You have the blog. What are your tips on raising capital in today's market for the startup listener?
So many of the rules that govern raising capital in the past still apply, but more so. In terms of showing traction and demonstrating you've got a customer, you've got many customers, and that you can build a market from the set of customers that you have by extrapolation. So you get 20 customers, you walk into a VC, you can show that you can build a market, a serviceable market on your own. This is still a very basic principle that, comes out of not just, Eric Rice's book
Startup.
or other
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
startup book or other books. You've got basically an absolutely necessary, theme that you have to show. The other things that are really important, if at all possible, is showing a lot of white space. That is to say, you have very little competition, that you've got somewhat of a new idea. It used to be back in the day, and this is before the AI era, that you had to have IP in place. Today, you don't have to have IP in place before you go shopping for funding. It's it's good to have that because your valuations will be higher. However, like today, it's it's really important you've got a unique idea that's defensible and that is differentiated from all these other technologies that are out there. And then this word explainable and transparency, these words are coming back frequently. And the reason explainability is partially a function of the startup's ability to explain what it does by way of technology solution and where the market is going. And in terms of transparency, that is a feature which especially AI companies have to be able to extend to their customer base. That is transparency in terms of what the models they're using, how they train the models, and the variety of other features that I won't go into the details of. Explainability and
Transparency.
transparency are definitely part of the mix of characteristics that you have to get funding these days. The competition for funding is really fierce.
Hmm.
at every stage, even friends and family, getting people to get money at friends and family level. But then seed one competition is fierce. Seed two, it gets fiercer. Seed three, it gets even more fierce because it's pre Series A. And then Series A funding is super fierce. The criteria has to be ever greater, the growth prospects ever proven throughout the entire chain of events. And then all the other hygienic basics, like your P&L has to look, your pro forma P&L has to look really good.
Mm. Interesting. I mean, I could go on a tangent here, but you mentioned white space and how it's important to have little competition. Isn't that a red flag if there's no competition in the sector you're in, right?
So that's an interesting, white space means opportunities.
Okay.
And so, what you need to do if you're considering a startup that has white space, that is no competition, what you have to do is show how the markets will grow and how competition will, appear over time once you prove the market. And then over a period of time, you have to show a technology roadmap which places you into. So, if you start off by selling to the financial sector and then you expand and you go into other sectors. So, for example, I've got a wonderful company called Fiverity, and that company is a anti fraud company. And we had white space, 6 years ago when we started the company. And we had an AI solution for, banks. And over a period of time, our VC, whose name is Mendon Ventures from New York and New Jersey. And that company, they asked us, where was the white space, how the white space will fill in, who is the competition. I remember
Hmm.
very distinctly the CEO of the company, and I'm the executive chairman of the company. It's very clear that we had to, show the progress, and the company has showed its progress over a period of time in the AI space in general, and specifically in banks and in other applications. And, now the company is, well funded, and it's improved the funding over time. And, that's a function of the markets maturing and the company maturing and the communications of the company uh, evolving over a period of time.
Shout out to the company again, Fiderity.
Fiverity comes from Veritas, which, as you know, is the logo of Harvard.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, moving on here, talking still about entrepreneurs, is there a common mistake that you see founders, entrepreneurs making today that you would advise them to do otherwise?
I've written extensively about errors, mistakes, and blunders. Blunders are things that can be avoided. Mistakes are accidental sometimes, and they are sometimes avoidable. And so, one of the mistakes that startups make, especially among companies that have founders that have just come directly out of school, is that one mistake is one or two customers is enough, and then you think you have a market. It's not enough. Also, a product market fit is not a one-time event. Probably the single most frequently made mistake is that product market fit is not a one-time event. Like the founders get a little bit of traction and they think that's product market fit. No, it's an evolving process, and you have PMF, or product market fit 1.0, followed by PMF 2.0, followed by PMF 3.0, and you're constantly evolving your product market fit criteria, and you're looking at more and more customers to prove product market fit. So it's an evolving process. And unfortunately, like young founders and new startups have a distorted vision of PMF.
Okay, so errors, mistakes, and blunders. More of that on your blog. When should a founder be planning for that? Is it the moment that they start the company? What's the best approach?
Well, this expression, always be selling.
Yes.
that the CEO has to always be selling, or the variation for the VC world is always be funding.
Right.
Well, there is also an expression that I kind of developed over a period of time, which is always be thinking about your exit. So I started off on December 27th, 2002, while I was on vacation, developing the business plan and the business idea and the entire business around Black Duck software. I developed 255 PowerPoint slides. 2 or 3 of those slides were dedicated to exit. Now, I predicted an exit that I predicted some things related to the exit that were very accurate, but there were some that were not so accurate. The important point is that I took that as a template and used it during the entire course of my running Black Duck, which was, from 2002. Well, it was December. It was the end of December. So it was really 2003 all the way through the end of 2017 when the deal consummated. 15 years of sort of planning and thinking about it and engaging. It's not something like you can pick up the phone one day and then all of a sudden have an exit at your doorstep. It takes a long time to do an exit. And part of the trick is planning it. Well, first and foremost, visualizing it, and then planning it, and then subsequently putting things into place that result in it. So strategic partnerships are extremely important, but doing the right partnerships is extremely important. Choosing the right personnel inside the company to do that. I mean, I made, a number of mistakes on the strategic partnership side, and I had to correct them. And so that is not only in the strategic partners that we were kind of pursuing, but also in the personnel who were pursuing that. And, that is a really important idea that founders as well as startup CEOs have to get into their head. That, doing an exit is not as a result of an accident. But it's also not a result of heavy planning in the beginning and trying to execute a heavy plan all around. It's somewhere in between. It's somewhere in between something that is fortuitous and opportunistic and something that is planned.
Just winding down here, if people were interested in hearing more or connecting with you, go to your Substack, go to your LinkedIn. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I've been more than happy to engage with people through my Substack. The title is called Lessons from a Startup Life. You can find it on Substack. You can find it also by looking at Doug Levin .substack.com, and you can go directly there. And you can find it on LinkedIn. My name is Doug Levin.
Okay. Well, Doug, I appreciate your time and appreciate all these thoughts. This was great, really educational, and I hope our entrepreneur audience enjoyed it as well.
Thank you, Alastair, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Venture Variety Show. I hope you enjoyed that podcast conversation with Doug Levin. Please remember to like and subscribe this video. You can find me on all the platforms, so I prefer you go to YouTube, where you can also access my other podcast, The AI Cognitive Shift, which I do in collaboration with AInews.com. Also, if you have any suggestions for future guests or any comments or feedback, please drop it in. And thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time here on the Venture Variety Show. Bye-bye.